Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Um, so thank you for the introduction. And what you didn't say is that I grew up in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. I'm going to tell you this, and I went to an arts high school, studied theater, and I wanted to be a famous actress on Broadway. Okay? Now, for those of you who don't know, the biggest fear that every actor has is that no one will come to their show, okay? Except for getting their lines. So anyone who's in the back or anyone who's interested, come here. It'll only be 12 minutes. It'll be painless, I promise, okay? So I want to share the story with you, and I think the underlying message of so many of the talks that we heard today is people that are asking themselves, are we doing enough? Okay, are we doing enough? And the answer is instinctively no. Okay, we're not doing enough. We need to be doing more, right? And I want to be sharing the story, and it starts way back, and in 2008, and it's going to go like this. So because I told you I wanted to be a famous actress on Broadway, and this is kind of a little bit of a monologue, and I am here on stage, but it's not about Shakespeare or Chekhov, it's about changing the world, okay? And the story starts like this. So imagine a dusty courtyard in a distant town up north in Israel. It's called Afula. I don't know if any of you have ever been there. And in this courtyard, imagine that there are humming AC motors, a lot of dust, a lot of trash, and in that courtyard, on a scorching afternoon in August, is where me and a group of crazy other artists decided to put on our first show in this neighborhood. So we went down, we set up the little set, we set up the cheap projector light that we had, we set up some music, and we waited for the kids and the neighbors to come down to see our show. Because in this neighborhood that we were living in, there were no theater venues, there were no venues at all, and so we decided to stage the show in the space between the buildings. So we're sitting there, and we're waiting for all the kids to come to our show because we invited them, and nobody's coming. And we're very disappointed, and we're very, we're angry, and why isn't anybody coming? Why isn't anybody coming? But we said, you know what? We said that we're going to do this show, so we put it on anyway. The next week, we said, okay, this time is going to work. We knocked on every door, invited every neighbor personally. We said, come to our show. Again, we went downstairs. It was very, very hot. We set up the stage. We set up everything, and we waited for them to come. Nothing. We're sitting there. We're sweating. We're drenched. We're putting, okay. But then I look up, and I see faces in the windows and eyes looking down at us in this courtyard. And I said to my friends, listen, they're watching us from above. They want to see our show. And so we put on the show to an empty courtyard, but a distant but very present crowd. The next week, they sent the kids down. They sent the kids that came to the show, and they laughed, and they cried, and they had a great time. The week after that, the grown-ups came too. And the grown-ups brought a shade net because it was very hot. They brought chairs to sit. They brought some refreshments and some drinks. And when we finished the show, they stayed, and we pulled out our guitars and sang and laughed with these kids all night. And again, you could understand their suspicion. Again, we were a bunch of young, crazy artists and actors who moved into this low-income neighborhood in Afula and invited them to come to this theater show. But eventually, this suspicious crowd turned into a community. And then when we started working with the kids, and we started working in the schools, and we were in this one city in the Central Galilee, and we asked ourselves, is it enough? Is it enough that we're in one city, in one place, working to make this city full of education and energy and culture and arts? And we said, well, no, it's not enough. So what we did is we went on all over the country, and we recruited new young adults to come and join us in this movement to move people from Tel Aviv and Jerusalem to places like Afula, like Kiryat Shmona, like Nahariya, down south, like Sderot. And we succeeded. And we were able to relocate over 1,000 artists, musicians, actors to move, live, and work in these areas. And then we asked ourselves, is it enough? We have this group of artists that are working, that are active, is it enough? And we said, well, no, it's not enough. Could there be any other movements, activists, people who are organized, that are organized in social movements that want to work and want to be activists in these areas? And we went around and we talked to people that come from a different backgrounds than us: religious, Arab, Druze, Balei Tshuva, Ethiopian, different organized groups that are spread out around the country. And we invited them to come and be part of this coalition of movements. And this is what Makom Organizations is. It's a coalition of organizations that recruit young adults and young families that are change makers to move to the Galil and to the Negev. And this is what we've been doing since 2011. Today, all of these organizations encompass 15,000 volunteers and activists that are spread out throughout the country. And they each come from their own background, but they know how to collaborate. They know how to cooperate with each other, because they each come from this motivation, but they also come from an organized movement, an organized organization. And this entire coalition is able to collaborate on national and even international missions together. For example, during the Ukraine war, when the Ukraine war with Russia-Ukraine war broke out, the Makom volunteers and the Makom delegations, we were one of the first organizations to meet refugees on the Ukraine-Poland border and help them get to safe spaces, and then help them work with their kids, and some of them also make aliyah to Israel as well. And all of the different Makom volunteers organized, and we had 8 different delegations that moved and that created these solutions for people. Another example, of course, during October 7th, when the war broke out, in 8 hours, we had one streamlined command center to operate 15,000 volunteers across Israel. Okay, so helping people evacuate from the Otef, creating daycare for kids in evacuee centers, in hotels, and then helping people also move back, cleaning up bomb shelters, assisting senior citizens to reach them, elderly people that are homebound, helping them also in their homes and out. So again, all of these organizations working together in these areas. And now, the main mission that Makom has taken on itself is rehabilitating the north. So what we're doing now is we're taking a city like Kiryat Shmona, and we're taking Kiryat Shmona and we're saying, okay, how do we take this expertise that we have of organizing communities and organizing volunteers and organizing people that have an ideological motivation to move and to be part of a community, and again, not in the center, but on the frontiers of Israel. And we assist, and we're part of rebuilding this city that has over 40% of its residents that have not returned. So how do we use the tool of community building and organizing to bring people there? And why do we need it? And this is also the reason we see that the partnership of JNF with Makom is that we understand that you have to build the infrastructure. Like we've heard, you have to build a medical center and the GCI and tourism and jobs and to bring high tech. But the people, when you have an engineer or a doctor that's considering moving from Tel Aviv to Kiryat Shmona, they're asking different questions. They're asking, will my kid have friends on the first day of school? Where's the best neighborhood for me to rent an apartment in the city? Where do I have a place to do yoga? Where's the best place that I can go around here, and who do I invite to Shabbat dinner? So these may seem like simple questions, but these are actually deal breakers for many people who are actually considering moving to the north or to the south, and especially to Kiryat Shmona. And what we do in Makom is that we take these people that are interested in that are considering moving, and we take them every step of the way. Every family that's interested in moving to a city, to Kiryat Shmona, we help them, we connect them to a community that they can be part of as they come and that they live, and they can answer all these questions for them. And I think that the next, like this question of are we doing enough is something that will continue to drive us, to drive our motivation to do more. Because when you have someone that has that we call it in Hebrew a juke, something that's like it's burning inside you, then it may start by in a little story, in a little neighborhood, in a little courtyard of just trying to get people together, and it can end up in repopulating the Galil and bringing people to move there, even though they can't even imagine necessarily doing that. And for me, it's understanding what is the deep meaning of optimism. What does it mean to be optimistic? And to be optimistic, we can maybe think that to be optimistic is the mood that you wake up in the morning. Are you optimistic? Are you pessimistic? What do you feel? But optimism is not a mood, it's a moral standpoint. And when you have a moral standpoint of being optimistic and hopeful about the future, that gives you the motivation and the drive to seek out solutions and to create them. And it can start from a micro level, but it can end up on a national and international way, like Makom is doing. So thank you for listening, and good luck.